Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Meneghini Mixdown. Only on 91.3 WHJE. Good morning, Carmel. You're listening to 91.3 WHJE. It's that time of the week, that time of this fine Tuesday morning. It's the Meneghini Mixdown. And I'm your host, Ethan Meneghini, here for the Meneghini Mixdown, of course. Hope you guys are ready for some jam-packed electronic music this morning. Of course, running down the best in EDM music, the best in EDM content around Carmel. We've got an action-packed show this morning, but first, just good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are energized, ready to go on this Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. Just a long, good weekend. I had a college visit yesterday, so that was fun. A nice chance to get out, go see Rose Holman, so that was very cool. Out here in Indiana, Terre Haute. Some good things going on this weekend. Hope everybody had a great weekend as well as I did with my friends. Some good things going on. Quick update on the YouTube channel. I know I mentioned this last week. I do have a YouTube channel up now, but I did upload my first episode because I was having some issues with our station logger. However, those were cleared up, but basically, because our station logs everything that we have going on to some files so we can use those later, I was going to pull everything off and upload the full hour of last week's episode to the YouTube channel, but I was not able to do so immediately because of some logger issues, because it was going to a different directory. We couldn't find it, basically. But we did end up finding it. I do have it now. I have not yet rendered it, but I did, in place of that, upload the full uncut live interview that I did with my friend Schuster, Charles Schuster. That was in semester 1, episode 9. That is the first full hour upload to the YouTube channel. So that's up now if you guys do want to tune into that and listen to everything that we talked about way back from semester 1 of the show. So if you guys want to subscribe, check that out. Feel free. Just a place to tune into some past episodes and maybe some extra content coming here in the future over there on the Meneghini Mixdown. But other than that, yeah, we've got some action-packed stuff this morning. Some nice future house. I was going to say future bass, future house music, and those sorts that are going to be really good this morning. The first track, Machine Drum and Holly, Berry Patch. Now, I was kind of confused when I saw this because I was looking through my release radar on Spotify, which is kind of like, the playlist that you get personalized that shows some new releases coming out. So I figured it was pretty recent. And when I went to check the release date on Spotify, it gives a little year of the release date. It said 2020. So I was like, okay, so it had to have been recent, right? However, this was actually shown online as releasing on October 25th, which was kind of confusing. I didn't really know which release date was going to be the best. But this track is a really unique drum and bass track. So I think it has a really nice aura to it. It's a nice somber intro with a nice catchy drum line that plays throughout the track. So I think it is a really unique track that I think is going to be good. I did talk about last week about the year of drum and bass, quote unquote, that it's going to be the resurgence of drum and bass this year, 2020. And that's this track, I think, does a really good job of showing that. I think bringing to light the year of drum and bass, quote unquote, if that's what's going to end up happening. Have I noticed it? Not really, but is this what's going to end up happening? Maybe. This is a good sign of good things coming out of the drum and bass scene, I would say. Holly, I've listened to in different trap tracks, so to see Holly doing some drum and bass is pretty unique as well. However, I've never actually heard of Machine Drum. It just came up in my release radar, and I was like, this is a cool track. So I decided to show that up here this morning. Of course, the first track, like I said, this is Machine Drum and Holly, Berry Patch on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. First track here this morning, that was Berry Patch by Machine Drum and Holly here on 91.3 WHJE. The Meneghini Mixdown, the best place on WHJE to hear the best in EDM content. At least I would say so. I'm pretty biased, though, because this is my live show, obviously. That was a really nice track, a really nice drum and bass track with a really unique, somber kind of intro, atmospheric intro, with that kind of vocal sample echoing throughout. And then you have the first drop, which is relatively repetitive. I thought it could have used a little bit more variation, but I like to hear it kind of build up in tempo and space. And then you have the second drop, which puts a really unique spin on the same basses that have been playing throughout the first drop, throughout the first couple of minutes of the track there. Really nice track. I did like seeing that on my release radar. Nice listening to it. But that one is kind of the oddball. That's kind of the oddball in the track list here this morning. Track list. That's not it. Track list this morning. Everything else is pretty much future house, which is a genre I've talked about in the past. Just kind of going through some new releases that I had seen. I thought it was going to be cool to just kind of go through some tracks that are more housey. So we have some future house tracks sprinkled throughout the track list. We have some trance, which is more. It's going to sound pretty similar to those of you that aren't really familiar with electronic music or familiar with house specifically, where trance is maybe a little bit more fast-paced and a little bit more repetitive in a sense. They do sound very similar, but future house is the one that you'll notice is a lot of the drops and things are very swung. We will have a Throwback Tuesday kind of session at the very end here with two tracks that kind of bring it back to the quote-unquote, you could say, good old days, with some of the tracks that they're surprising what year they were released and how recent that is, but how far ago it seems. That's okay, though. We'll talk about that when the time comes, obviously. So, first track. We're just gonna get right into the first track here. Make You Mine, featuring Mo Elisa by Mike Williams. Mike Williams, if you've heard me talk on this show, at least last semester, is one of my favorite future house artists explicitly, I think. He has a really, really unique sound. A lot of his tracks have very bright, poppy atmosphere. Not necessarily pop music. I guess I say that in the sense that they pop out a lot. They stand out. This one definitely does follow that sort of structure with a really, really big, just a big, bright melody over the drop, and his punchy drums with the snaps. The claps just kind of shine through the mix. I think I do really enjoy the stuff that he puts out and a lot of the more recent things that he's been putting out. This one was released January 17th, 2020. So recently, much more recently than the thing that we had talked about before, regardless of when it was released. But Mo Elisa, not to be confused with Mona Lisa, obviously, had some bright vocals over the track, mostly over the chorus. I think this tends to be the case in EDM music, where they can a lot of times the chorus is going to sound a lot brighter than anything else. So I think that's kind of a given here in the situation, but that's okay. Just some really, really beautiful bright future house coming out of Mike Williams, and he's always done a good job with this, so I've always been a fan of the music he's been putting out. So, of course, without further ado, this is Make You Mine, featuring Mo Elisa by Mike Williams on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown.
I know we've gone separate ways, but you're stuck on my mind. Memories inside my head say, need you by my side. 'Cause every day I'm waiting for a sign we can make it. You know that I never wanna leave you. Believe me, I need you. I'll make it right. I'm looking for a way to make you mine. I need you by
Make You Mine, featuring Mo Elisa by Mike Williams here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. How's everybody doing? For those of you that missed my intro, my name is Ethan Meneghini. This is the Meneghini Mixdown, my live show, Tuesday mornings, 6:30 to 7:30 a.m., where I talk about the best in EDM content, the best in EDM around Carmel. Right now, we just listened to Mike Williams, Make You Mine, featuring Mo Elisa. A really, really bright, beautiful track. I do love that track. The bass hits hard. The drums, the kick and the snare go through the mix, and as does the melody over the drop. The vocals shine really well. I do really like that track overall. It kind of has that, just the bright, poppy mood. It's just a really great track overall. I think that's the consensus I've made here this morning talking about this track so far. Next up, No Mana and Jantine? I don't know how to pronounce that. No Mana and Jantine, Strangers, released January 14th of 2020. No Mana, I think I've played on the show a couple of times. It would have definitely been last semester. And a lot of his trance styles, obviously, he's been releasing to Mousetrap, which is Deadmau5's record label. A lot of you probably know, if you know me, that I've talked about Deadmau5 before. And he is one of my favorites. Mousetrap with his record label and No Mana releasing to it. No Mana has a lot of this trance influence. And you can definitely hear probably Deadmau5's influence, not necessarily directly on the track. Obviously, Deadmau5 probably did not, directly have an influence, but he could possibly be inspired by Deadmau5. I wouldn't know, but they have very, very similar styles. But it is pretty easy to tell which is which, at least from my perspective, from my point of view. And No Mana's always had a really unique, like, almost chiptune style in a way. Chiptune meaning, almost video game soundtrack sort of style in a sense. I think this one parts more ways from that than previous tracks that he's had, like his previous EPs that I have talked about. Different tracks that I've played before, like Nostalgia Drive, different ones. And so I think this one with the vocals over it, while the vocals they're decent. I think it's good that they're there. I think they do add to the track overall at best. The hovery chords that ring through the whole track makes it for a really enjoyable track. I think his drums do really accentuate the track a lot as well. In a very good trance track overall. So next up on the track list, this is Strangers by No Mana and Jantine here on 91.3 WHJE.
As if I knew that we were losing. I never asked what you were thinking. You forgive, I keep forgetting. I feel your sorrow as I breathe in. One more second to believe in. This is not a one-way ticket, no. Strangers on the nightlight, looking at the night sky, wishing we could turn back time. We are greeting as we pass by. Strangers on the nightline, looking into foreign eyes. Strangers on the nightline. Strangers on the
No Mana and Jantine. That was Strangers here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. A really, really unique, really nice trance track for this morning. Obviously, I've loved No Mana's stuff. I think that track is really great overall. The hovery chords that just ring throughout the track make it a really enjoyable listening experience. But I will say the vocals, while they are, I mean, they're decent, but I think they lack in energy and lyricism. So I think they do add to the track, but I think they just add to the track at best. I think they don't have a lot of valid qualities, but I think it is a valid contribution there. I think the track overall needed that just to kind of keep variation going, keep the song continuing, going on throughout. Great track there by No Mana. Next up, Who's Got Your Love, Mike William remix. Obviously, I played Mike William like 2 seconds ago, 2 tracks before. But, of course, like I said, we're talking about house, future house, trance, kind of this mix of house genres. Cheat Codes and Daniel Bloom, Who's Got Your Love, Mike Williams remix. Released in August of 2019. Features a powerful chorus from the original track, but Mike Williams obviously put his spin on the track with a really hypnotic melody over the drop. It's different than what I was talking about with the first track, Make You Mine, while Make You Mine had bright vocals. There was a very bright feeling around the track, a really bright feeling around the track with the brighter melodies. This one I think is definitely a lot more of a crowd rager sort of drop. There is feeling to it, but it's not as melodic and bright as the other one. Still same drum style, similar bass style, but the melody is almost like falling down, like the pitch just falls down in the loop, which obviously still love the track here. I do like the chorus. The vocals outside of the chorus aren't really that. I mean, like I said, it's kind of similar to what we said with Strangers. Adds to the track at best, but I don't think it really has any great qualities to it. I do like the chorus a lot though from the original track, and Mike's spin over the track, which obviously is just going to end up great. I think you guys will understand what I mean if you had listened to Make You Mine before, just a couple minutes ago. I think you'll be able to figure out the differences between the drop that's going to be playing over this track compared to that track, and you'll be able to kind of feel the differences in mood between the two. Still great, jumpy dance tracks. Still tracks that I would definitely listen to outside of the show, obviously. So we should jump right into these. This is Who's Got Your Love, Mike Williams remixed by Cheat Codes and Daniel Bloom here on 91.3 WHJE. The Meneghini Mixdown.
Maybe once or twice, tell me.
Who's Got Your Love? Mike Williams remixed by Cheat Codes and Daniel Bloom here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. That track is super high energy. I really do love that track. I mean, just the vocals over the chorus I think are really, really nice. The vocals outside the chorus, I mean, they, of course, like I said, they add to the track. Nothing super, super crazy. But that Who's Got Your Love Tonight, that lyric, repeating over and over, I think I really do enjoy that track. And then the drop, just super high energy, that falling pitch. I think if you listened to Make You Mine, I think you would be able to piece out the differences between those two and the feelings that they're trying to create. Obviously, both of them are great in their own ways, but they do create different feelings. Love that track overall. Next up, switching to more of a trance vibe, Above and Beyond Alchemy, featuring Zoe Johnston, I.O. remixed, released last summer, featuring unique vocals and beautiful melodies and pads. I think this is one of the things you're probably going to notice from somebody like Above and Beyond, with the melodies and pads that are going on in a more fast-paced trance track, not the same 128 BPM or 125 BPM house sort of tempo that we hear commonly. This one being a bit more fast-paced than that, with the repetitive drums that keep the whole rhythm flowing over the track, and then the atmospheric pads that go in between are really, really, really nice. I do think this track overall is great. We're hitting about the halfway mark on the show this morning, so I hope you guys are enjoying the show this morning. For those of you that haven't or hadn't tuned in during my intro or heard one of the other segments, my name is Ethan Meneghini. I'm your host for this morning, 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. This is the Meneghini Mixdown, where we talk about the best in EDM music, the best in EDM content around Carmel. And today I'm talking about a lot of house music, trance music. This next track, hopefully you'll remember. If you weren't familiar already, you'll recognize the trance genre after you hear this song. This is I.O.'s remix of Alchemy by Above and Beyond and Zoe Johnston here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. Alchemy, remixed by IO, by Above and Beyond, Zoe Johnston, here on the Meneghini Mixdown. Next up on the track list, 2 tracks by deadmau5, new tracks that I have not yet talked about that are a little bit more recent. Saturn is the first one we're going to be playing of the 2 that was released on November 15th of 2019, featuring flowing pads in the introduction with some arpeggios and some powerful bass leading up to, of course, a very full track, melodic trance track that is very evident of deadmau5 style. I always really enjoy deadmau5's tracks. I did talk about one of my past episodes that I should upload this episode as well to the YouTube channel, as I talked about before. Ooh, not get over my words there. Talk too quick. Over the YouTube channel, as I talked about before, I should upload that episode that I talked about with deadmau5's W/W:/ whatever you'd want to say, 2016 album, his 2016 album, obviously, and the melodies that you hear there, almost the atmospheric vibes in some of the tracks, and then you have some like funk vibes over there with his track No Problem, and then you have Welk then is a very just awkward, slowed down house, but like atmospheric, almost industrial song, and then you have different areas over here. It's a very, very unique album, and I really enjoyed a lot of the tracks from it. So this obviously 3-4 years almost, I guess now it's 2020, at the time of the release of these songs, 3 years later after that, returning to that kind of trance vibe that almost rings familiar to deadmau5 from 10 years ago now, or something of the such. Some classic deadmau5 that I will always really enjoy. So both Saturn and the track after this one that I will play, Fall, both touch base to that sound of old style. Of course, I was thinking about this last night. A lot of people will listen to new music from an artist and think they are deviating from their classic style. I know I watched Anthony Fantano, the Needle Drops review last night of one of his new videos on Eminem's new album. And, a lot of people were, basically what he said is there's a lot of people in Eminem's fan base that want him to go back to his classic style. But I think it's really hard for fans to expect an artist to want to go back to classic styles, to, I guess, go back to something that they were doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if that's how long that they've been doing that sort of project. So, I guess I say that in the sense that as an artist, you change so much going through different releases and going through different periods of time where you are interested in one thing or another. Being an artist myself, I think, shows that side of things. I will always say, I would always bash somebody like the Chainsmokers for changing from EDM and going pop, obviously, but, it's what makes you the money at the end of the day for some people, right? I guess it's hard to expect an artist to go back to what is classic, quote unquote. And at the same time, that begs the question, what is classic for an artist? Like what is older styles, and how has their sound evolved? If you still like their old sound and their new sound, I mean, what's the difference? If you like it, if you don't like their new stuff, then listen to their old stuff. But it's hard for them to just simply go back to classic music and stuff that they were doing 5-10 years ago. I think as an artist, I've evolved quite a bit in what I'm interested in the music that I listen to, and what I want to actually listen to. So to force myself to go back to something classic would be really drastic. So I think it's kind of weird that some people still expect artists to go back to what is quote unquote classic, that artist, their classic persona per se. I think it's hard for people to expect that of an artist. But of course, I'm not even there for my own self and my own artistry, having classic sound for myself, because I think, that almost implies that you have to have a large fan base at a certain point. That fan base evolves, and then they think, okay, well, that was classic. Now we want more of that. I think it's quite a debacle. I think something to talk about. But of course, regardless of whether deadmau5 is trying to touch back to his old roots or not, probably not. I would expect him probably not at all doing that with both Saturn and Fall and the couple of singles he's been releasing intermittently over the last couple of months. That he was not intentionally trying to touch back to his classic trance roots, because he's been doing trance stuff for a while now. It was interesting though that he released it's called Where's the Drop, his compilation Where's the Drop, which was a Mousetrap compilation, just kind of like orchestral versions. Like, I think at the end of the songs, it would just have parentheses OV, I'm assuming meaning orchestral version. Obviously, I don't necessarily know what it means explicitly, but that's what I'm going to assume, because the song's called the album's called Where's the Drop. There's no drops. There's no big trance drums. No heavy bass playing throughout. Just some orchestral pads and melodies going on in reminiscence of the tracks that he had released in the past. I know Strobe had one, and then he, following that, released the big compilation Here's the Drop, which featured a lot of remixes of those orchestral versions. So you had Strobe orchestral version remixed by Peekaboo. That was one of the bigger tracks, I think, from that compilation that a lot of people were listening to. So, of course, anyway, I kind of went on a tangent about that. I think it was something good to talk about, something I had heard recently, thought about recently. I think it was something nice to talk about here on the Meneghini Mixdown. Of course, next up here, Saturn by Deadmau5. Hope you guys enjoy this track. That was Saturn by Deadmau5 here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far here this morning. That was Saturn by Deadmau5. A really, really nice trance track. The build-up in the beginning, it took a little bit. It was a little long. Of course, that was a total playtime of 6 minutes and 55 seconds. Not there. It kind of faded out not too quickly. But the whole track overall, 6 minutes and 55 seconds of playtime, evident of Deadmau5 style long tracks every now and then. I do love just the pad that was just constantly playing in the intro, and then you have the somber kind of almost road-like, just melody playing over the top. And then about a minute through, you could hear just the reverse chord just build up, and then it sounded like it wasn't going to change, and then these basses just shined through with the melody, and just I think that was a very very nice moment there in the track overall. And then you have the drums come through, the bass, the arpeggios that you hear over the drop, or quote unquote drop. I think you could say whatever you want for that sort of section. It just kind of evolved in one big motion, one big sweeping motion. It wasn't sort of like a conventional house track maybe, where you just have one drop in the beginning and then a second drop at the end. Just one sweeping trance motion here for that track. Really, really unique. Next up, Fall by Deadmau5, of course, being released soon after this one, released on November 29th, 2019, shortly after November 15th when Saturn was released. This one, we're gonna be hitting the deeper parts of the trance area. This one is like half the time of this track, so much shorter, but another recent track, obviously, touching more on the deeper side, beginning with some deep bass, eventually hitting with the kicks and just evolving throughout with this thirds bass just going on throughout the whole time. I think this is a really unique track, the noises and the basses evolving throughout this track. Next up here, Fall by Deadmau5 here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. That was Fall by Deadmau5 here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. I cut it short a little bit because that one also has a 7-minute playtime, 7 minutes and 1 second of playtime. I only played about 4 minutes of it through its entirety. Very similar concept going throughout the whole thing. The thirds bass is there, and then you have the roaring bass there, just fading into noisy grittiness in the beginning, and then just kind of almost fading into this more smooth, chorused out kind of bass, and then you bring it up again, and then you repeat the process. Fall by Deadmau5. That is a lot longer than I expected. For some reason, I was under the impression, I said it was like 3 or 4 minutes beforehand. I was under the impression that it was a lot shorter than it was, but I cut it short just so we can have some time to get into some of the other tracks that we're talking about here this morning. Hopefully, I'll have some room for the next track, and then one of the Throwback Tuesdays that I want to get into. One of the two. Won't have time for one of them, but that's okay. We'll allocate our time better here. Next up, Oliver Heldens' Aquarius, released December 13th, 2019, to Hell Deep Records, which is a sublabel of Spinnin' Records, I believe. I know it is a sublabel of something, but regardless, that's one of Heldens' labels. Ambient and bouncy, yet rhythmic at the same time. Kind of what I had in my notes here. And I think I couldn't have put it any other way than myself when I was writing that. I think it's a really good way to describe it. Just this future, it's not even future house almost. It's just kind of like some deep house in a sense. Obviously, Hell Deep Records, more deep kind of things going on here in that aura. This is Aquarius by Oliver Heldens on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. Aquarius by Oliver Heldens here on 91.3 WHJE. The Meneghini Mixdown, a really unique, deep, bassy track, at the same time keeping the melodies flowing all throughout. A nice track overall. We're going to jump into the Throwback Tuesday, sort of. I had 2 tracks planned, but I'm only going to play one of them. This is Intoxicated by Martin Solveig and GTA, a.k.a. Good Times Ahead, released in 2015 to Spinnin' Deep, of course, a sublabel of Spinnin' Records, more towards deep house, future house, that sort of thing. This is a track that I do consider a classic. I mean, still hearing this track come about every now and then. The summer vibes just come to my head after hearing this track, quite honestly. And the melody and the vocals still stick with me to this day. So quickly, this is Intoxicated by Martin Solveig and GTA, a.k.a. Good Times Ahead, here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. I'll be back after this track to talk and outro the show. That was Intoxicated by Good Times Ahead and Martin Solveig here on 91.3 WHJE, the Meneghini Mixdown. Hope you guys enjoyed that track. That one definitely a classic in terms of this Throwback Tuesday madness. Definitely a melody over the drop and the vocals that remind me of the summery vibes. I don't even know if it was released during the summer, but I think that's kind of what it reminds me of. I think that's when I remember hearing it way back in 2015, its year of release. I went over my time slot a little bit. It is 7:31, so crazy. I went over the time slot. It's okay. Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. glad you stuck around and listened to these awesome tracks. So we'll be back next week. Be sure to look at the YouTube channel, the Meneghini Mixdown, Meneghini Mixdown. Obviously, you can listen to me over there. I will have some of those uploaded in the future, and follow me on social media as well. I will be maybe posting some questions. You guys could give feedback, suggestions on things I should review maybe on the channel or listen to over here on the station. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next week.